Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Watch and Make. It's a relatively simple one, but sometimes looking at product can sort of sway us from trying something out. So we're going to play today. I'm not going to make a card per se, but we're going to play with some product on our live today, which is kind of fun, and we'll see what we can do. We're going to play with VersaFine ink and some Lavinia washi paper sheets. Okay, so just like regular washi tape, okay, it's got that sort of coated background, so you can sort of see that there's a white coating on there. Well, Lavinia's washi tape is exactly the same idea, okay? So it's got the white coating on it, which is the top portion of our paper. And then on the back, you can see that it's got this acetate piece on it. That's your backing. So on the white portion, once you lift this away, let's see if we can do this just quickly so that you can see what I mean. You can peel away, and your acetate does not have any stick to it. It is your white piece of paper that's got the background on it, and then it's sort of a waxy feel to it. So it's almost like wax paper with a sticky background. Okay, so we're going to use VersaFine on here to ink up the piece of washi paper. Okay, and I have used AALL&CREATE. Let me see if I can find my packaging here. So we're using this. Not AALL&CREATE, excuse me, Ardennes, okay, and this is called Ledger Wings 01. It was from one of her early series, okay, with the butterflies and the dragonfly. And what I did was I've already placed it on my stamping platform, okay, and I've made a little line across, just like regular washi tape or PET tape. Same idea. And we're going to stamp with the VersaFine onto our paper. And what I found was with the VersaFine, it only takes a few seconds for it to dry. I thought it was going to take a lot longer, and it actually dried relatively quick. And I say that, but if you go to add ink, you still have to be a bit careful. So on this particular one, I've added my ink. I've blended that on the top of the coated paper, all right? What I am going to do is we're going to ink the white cardstock and then lay down our stamped image. We'll see if it actually sticks. So it's actually a little bit of a trial and error, and then just have some fun with it. I was able to actually use Olo markers on here with the VersaFine, which is a rarity because they don't like each other. The marker usually bleeds. I then added a little bit of glitter, and I added some glitter pen on here, so we can try that. That's that Prism glitter pen in clear. So we can try a little bit of that, and we'll see what happens. So we're going to start off with stamping, okay? So I've laid out all of my pieces. We're just going to get the piece put in here. We're going to add our magnets here so that sort of sticks right there. And then we're going to take our VersaFine ink and just add a little bit here. And you don't need to, the beauty with VersaFine is you don't need to be too heavy-handed with it. A little goes a long way. Just pop that off to the side. Now, I'm always messy with my ink. Don't ask me why, but I am. Okay, and then we're going to put this down. And we're just going to give this a nice little rub. Again, you don't need to be heavy-handed with this, okay, but we do want to make sure that the whole stamp transfers. All right, let's see what happens here. Okay, so we're missing a portion here. I don't want to restamp just in case. Well, actually, let's just try it. No, so anyway, we've doubled up here, but that's okay. For the purpose of this, we're gonna leave it for the moment, and then we're gonna try another one. So this one particularly, what I want to do is I want to ink my sheet of paper first, and then we're going to lay this down, and we're actually going to see if we can adhere this with the ink behind it, because sometimes the papers don't like to adhere, and it becomes a little bit messy. Okay, I need to just get my baby wipes. Hang on one second. All right, so we're gonna start inking this, and I'm gonna do my colors really light just because I want the pattern on this paper to shine through. So I'm gonna start with an orange, and if I pull my pattern back, we kind of wanna see where we wanna stick those. So I think I'm gonna try and put my orange here and a little bit here. So let's see how that works. Again, I use a little bit on and off method. I like to take my ink off and then add it to my paper. I find you get a better blend when you do layers instead of going straight to your paper. Okay, so we've got the 2 spots of orange. I don't mind that. I think I'm going to put some orange down in here. So we're going to kind of keep that in mind about where we're putting it. We'll leave that. Let's pull this back and see what happens. Yep. So far, so good. Okay, next color. Let's just go in with Sugar Candy. Okay, so we're using the Lisa Horton Sugar Candy. Again, put on, take off. We're just gonna add a little bit in here and then a little bit over here. We just wanna be able to see the colors in the background. It's not gonna be very vibrant. And then I'm gonna take my Surf's Up, which is the blue, and we're gonna put it in that rest of that open spots. Let's take this out of the way. Okay. And we're just going to come in here nice and lightly. And then we've got a lot of paper to play with here. Okay, so I've already smudged it there. Oh well. If you're going to use it on a card, you can make sure that you cover that little area up. Okay, let's just wipe up what we've got here. Take that out of the way. Okay. So we have that. That's going to be our background. Now you could add water to that if you want to. For the purpose of this, I'm not going to. I'm going to leave that nice and just sort of molted like that. And we are going to take our piece of washi paper, and I'm just going to give this a little cut, okay, because I want a strip that's going to fit on here. And I find if you cut to the width that you want, you can always go back with your guillotine or your blade and cut, okay? So for the most part, if we go in and give this a little rub, it's quite dry, so that's kind of nice. It dried very quickly. I honestly thought that we were going to have to use Stays On, but it seems to be okay. So that's a plus to that. So we're going to try and get this on here, and we're going to see if this actually sticks. So again, you're going to peel. You want to find a way to get the backing off. Okay. And I'm going to turn this way, and I'm going to start by layering from this end over here. So you want to pull your acetate portion back just a little bit, and then you are going to slowly peel. Okay. And then you can keep pulling and pushing until you get all the way to the end. Okay, now you can see I'm not pulling very straight here, so when we get to the end here, it's going to be off our sheet of paper just a little bit. Okay. You can also take your roller if you have one. Okay. Now, I've got black ink on my hands, so what I'm going to do is I want to cut this here. Okay, and then I'm going to cut this here. And then you can start to cut away any excess that you have here, okay? And I'm going to leave like that for a moment. Okay, so it actually sticks quite nicely, even though we had ink underneath. Okay, because if you're using PET tape, it's a little bit more difficult to add ink with that. I find that it just repels just a little bit. Okay, so we have this fun little thing, and then you can go in and either take your postage stamp die and cut those pieces out and use them in various ways. You can also go in and color, and I have a dark purple in my Olo markers. So this one is the V24. If you're going to color using VersaFine and the Olo markers, you need to be very careful about not hitting your inked edges, okay? Because it will smudge until it is completely dry. If you're not confident doing that, then wait the 24 hours. You'll find that you'll have a little bit more success without any color bleeding from your ink. Okay, so I'm just going to add a little bit of color here. I'm going to come down in here, and we're just going to do this really lightly. And I'm going to add another color. Let's see if we can find something nice and bright in here. Let's try the green and see what happens. Remember, you also have a bit of a tinted background, so the colors that you put on, if you want them to be vibrant, then you need to choose something that's going to be vibrant. So I'm going to lift that up. The green is there, but it's just not very vibrant because we've got blue behind it. So if I were to take, let me see here, I've got this nice bright blue, and I go in. Again, remember, your area is a bit wet, so you want to be very careful about adding your ink. Okay, so then you can go in and just quickly add a little bit of ink. Again, hard to see the blue on there because we've got this orangey pink background. Okay, so your colors matter when you are choosing them if you have colored your background. Okay, because they react differently depending on the color that you are choosing. Okay, so there's our butterfly. All right. And what I do want to do is I'm going to add a little bit of color to the dragonfly. And I'm actually going to do something on the fly here with you. I'm going to try a pencil crayon. I didn't try this before, so we'll see what happens here. But it looks like it works. So that's also good if you want to use your pencil crayons to create with. Okay, so there's a yellow. I'm going to choose another color. I think I'm going to get orange. And we'll see. Let's choose something really bright here. Okay, so there's the orange. Again, we're using VersaFine, so you shouldn't have any smudging when you put your pencil crayons on there. So if you don't have markers or markers that you feel confident with, pull out those pencil crayons and use those to add color, okay? Because you can also do that. And then there's no smudging, okay? So that is coloring on top of, right on top of your washi paper, okay? And again, like I said, if you want to use your postage stamp die and create some cute little squares, you can do that. I'm going to cut this one here. And then I think we can probably run those. I would wait until you've given it at least, you know, a good, I don't know, 30 minutes to dry, just to be on the safe side. Okay, so we've got all these cute little squares, and you can use those definitely on a card. I would wait the 30 minutes if you want to use them and run them through your die cutting machine just to make sure. Okay, so there we go. So that is our first grouping, and that is using the VersaFine ink, okay? So we know that VersaFine doesn't typically work well with alcohol markers. It also takes a little bit longer to dry. So you have to remember this one has been drying for 24 hours. It's why there's no movement in your ink. I do see on here that if you do touch it, there is a little bit of movement. I do not suggest heat setting it for the sole reason that there is plastic involved and it'll probably curl. Okay, so that's our first one where we color on our piece of paper and then add the washi tape on top. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to move that. This time round, we are going to stamp the same image, but we're going to use Memento ink, okay? We're going to see if it makes a difference. I didn't do one yesterday with the Memento. I just wanted to see, you know, the ease of what colors we can use on here, as well as if we can use glitter, which we can. And this next one, we're going to use glitter on the edges. So we'll see how that sort of works out. So I'm going to put this in. Just put these down. We're going to take our Memento. Now, I can tell you my Memento is a little bit dry. It needs to have a little bit of a refill on there. So I'm just going to take a little bit of extra time to add my ink to here. Okay, let's try this. Let's see what happens here. If you've got one of those tools that you can run over your over your stamps, the nice little round tools, this is a really good time to use that. Okay, and this one I know I have to press a little bit harder to get that ink transferred, just because my pad is a little bit dry. And there we go. Okay, so we know that Memento is going to dry a little bit quicker. Let's just move this to the side. Okay, we're going to give this a few seconds to dry. I don't have the heat gun on this side. So I'm just going to touch here in the corner, and you can see that there's nothing here that's transferring. Okay, so we're going to do this one a little bit different. We're actually going to put our ink on the top of this rather than underneath. And you may find that the colors don't pop the same as when it's on your white cardstock. Okay, so that is this. This was our first one. Okay, and I'm going to add a little bit of ink, and we'll see what happens. Let me just cover up my ink pads here. Okay. All right. I think I'm going to start with purple on here. Let's just see what happens with that. So very lightly. Okay, so you can put on and, oops, take off. And those acetate sheets, sorry, I'm going to go back here for a second. Those acetate sheets that you have, hang on to those because you can use those for shaker cards. All right, so I've taken off as much ink as I can up here. I did put on a little bit too much. And I'm just going to start slowly on the edge. Okay, so far the purple actually looks really nice on here. And it slides on there really easily. Okay, so I'm going to go in with a couple of other spots, just my big spots, so I can go in and add the color. It really is actually fun to make these because you're making your own type of tape that's going to be unique to you. So you can use, if you wanted to, you could literally cut that all out. You don't have to use a grunge type of stamp. You could use a cat, a dog. You could use words if you wanted to create a washi tape word to put over a white piece of cardstock to add to your card. You could do that as well. So there's lots of different ways to use that. I think I'm going to add orange to this. Let's make it look a little bit Halloweenish. So let me take away some of this. Okay, so a little bit of orange. Let's move this down over here. Again, I really suggest taking off as much as possible. You will find that you have less blotchy spots if you do that. And right now I'm just doing the outer edges. By doing that, you're still giving that ink a little bit of time to dry. Okay, we've got this little guy here. And then I'm going to go right in the center here. I don't want to add a whole lot because I don't want my colors to be muddy. Okay, so far that's what we have on there. It's very light and airy. Let's see what other color we can add. Maybe we'll add a little bit of blue. Let's just see what happens. All right, so now what I want to do with my blue is because you want to make sure that you do not smudge that ink. Let's see where else we can go. We'll go right in here. Now, see how there's a little bit of a smudge there, so you just have to watch. And for the most part, you are probably the only one who's going to see it. Okay, so now we've got all of that color. I want to do more, but I do want to go in. Clear glitter pen. Okay. So, see right. So we're only going to add just a little bit. And I'm going to go in over some of where the ink is. So I'm going to try going over here. I do not want to be on top of those too much of the ink itself because it's going to bleed onto your pen. Okay, so we're just going to go in and add a little bit of sparkle here. Now, on here, when you do that, you can start to see, it's a little bit hard, but you can start to see how it changes the color. Okay, so you can see that it sort of waters it down. It is kind of interesting. If you look here, okay, I did that with the glitter pen in here, and that's how we got that sort of watery color look on there. I don't suggest doing it all the time just because the tip of your pen then becomes full of that ink. So you can go in and just sort of add little splotches of color with your glitter. Okay, so I'm only going to do a little bit with the glitter because it does give a real watercolor look. Okay, so when that dries, I'm going to show you what I mean by the watercolor look. We're going to color the butterfly, and I'm going to do a different color just so that we can see what it looks like with a white background with no ink behind it. And I'm going to use a color that's a little bit darker, but it's a muted gray. And then we can add a couple of colors to here just so that we can see what they look like. So that's the muted gray, sorry, purple gray. And I think we'll do, this is a deep orange. So we'll try and see what this looks like. Because remember, our background is white. Even though we've added all our ink to the front end of it, it looks like we have colored underneath. Okay, so that's one side. And then if I take, let's see what kind of bright color we can use here. How about a pink? Let's try pink. We'll see what this looks like. Now, with the Memento, you don't need to worry so much because alcohol markers and Memento ink go really well together. Okay, so we've got two different colors on here. I really like it with just the white background and the ink on top, okay, because we have not put a white background on yet. Remember, we haven't peeled it off. So this is what this one looks like with the ink underneath. Let's peel this and put it on a piece of white paper and see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to peel from this side and we'll see. And I'll see if I can try and get this straight this time. Okay, so, whoops, I'm way off on the top, but that's okay. We're going to cut anyway. So you want to really try to go straight with it. So pull and smooth it out, okay? Pull and smooth it out, pull and smooth it out. There we go. So you can sort of see the difference. You can see how much brighter this one is versus this, because our background is white to start, whereas on our background here, we've already colored it up. Okay. Equally as fun to do, okay? And each of them just yields a different result. I just want to peel this under here so that it doesn't stick everywhere. So you can choose your brightness however you want that. I myself like working on top of the washi paper, versus underneath. I find it's just a little bit cleaner. I also prefer to work with the Memento if I'm going to use my alcohol markers. This way I don't have to worry too much about, am I going to smudge my ink? I do not like working with the glitter pen on here. I find it's just too much watercolor effect without getting that glittery look like that pen is supposed to give us. Pencil crayons. Let's see what it's like to work on here with the pencil crayon. Okay, I'm just going to take my orange and I'm actually going to outline my dragonfly just so that you can sort of see the coloring on here. And it works really well with a pencil crayon. Pencil crayon glides on here, which is really nice and smooth. You're not going to get any ridges when you do this. Okay, let's add a little bit of another color in here. Let's see here. I think I'm going to add, let's add a blue. We'll go on with the blue on the inside. So you're still going to get your pop of color if you're adding pencil crayon, okay? Now, the other thing that I want to do is I want to add glitter to the edges. It's been a while since I've done that, and I always find that that gives a nice edging to your card if you're going to do that. So what you can do is, hang on, let me just get some glue going here. You're going to burnish it on there. So we used to do this a lot, and I sort of gotten out of it, just, I'm not sure why. But we're going to put a little bit of glue just on the edge here, and just take your finger. Okay, you can do this with it. You don't want to add a lot of glue. You just want to have a little bit on there. And then you can take your glitter, and I usually just stick my finger in there because I find it's a lot easier to work with. Okay, and then you can burnish your glitter on there, and that's going to add another layer to the look. Okay, what's the other grouping thing that we can do with this? If you've got a white paint pen or gel pen, and you want to add a little bit of detail, you can go in with your white marker. It's not going to show up very, very loudly, depending on what the color of the background or the color that you're placing it onto. So again, you're adding it to the ink portion. So it's going to be very different if you are adding the white to the washi paper that has the color on the background, okay? Because you're not having to penetrate the ink when you do it on your cardstock that's been colored from behind. So those are a couple of little things that you can remember as well. All right. What else did I want to show you? We did the glitter. We have done the glitter pen. We've done pencil crayon. We've added glitter to the top to enhance the look. What else? What else can we add to this just to? If you are using acrylic paint markers, okay, and you want to go in and paint, you can do this as well. Okay, so just like painting, you want to add a little bit of a different color, especially if you want to highlight. Acrylic paint markers work really well on this. You do have to give it a little bit of time to dry, okay, because it is, you know, paint on top of a not so porous surface. Okay, so there's that. And then again, remember the dry time with Memento is a little bit less. So you can go in cut your pieces. Now, you don't have to put them on a white background and then cut. If you have a card and you want to add them directly to your piece of paper, you can do that. The only thing I find is if you stamp directly on here and then you go and you cut it out, if you add that to a darker piece of paper, you are actually going to see this white washi paper. You're going to get a ring around it, okay? My suggestion is always adhere it to white paper. That way you don't see any of the lines from where you've placed it. So those are a couple of little things to keep in mind. So you can also peel it off once you stuck it down. Okay, so let's just say you had a little extra piece and this is your card. And this is what I mean by placing it straight down onto your cardstock. You will see all together so that you're not getting this type of lined look, okay? That's where that type of cutting down your die and taking your die, so whether you have an oval or a circle, and putting all the way around that you put on a piece of cardstock on a fun fold. So those are some ideas that you can do as well. So that is working with Lavinia washi paper. Don't be afraid to try out other inks. So take Lavinia's inks if you have them, and you can do them in your designs in colored ink. It probably start to curl, and then you're not going to be able to use it the way that you want, because it's going to wrinkle, and you don't want that, because then you're not going to get a clean, smooth lay down of the washi paper. So I hope that it encouraged you to try and play with some of your supplies. If you don't have washi paper, maybe just try just creating your stamps and using your inks in a little bit of a different way. Creating unique stickers, this is a really good way to do it. So have some fun. Don't be afraid to play, because sometimes, we're so worried about, am I going to ruin it? You know what? These are all fun little pieces. Did I ruin it? Well, of course I did. I mean, I've got some smudges here. Figure out a way to use the pieces in another card, or cover them up. Sentiments are really good for covering up bloopers. I use that a lot. So that is the end of our watch and make. I hope you enjoyed watching and learned something new, and have a great afternoon, and thank you for watching.